right, can you sniff out the imposter? This is the question, and who is legit? We got two people here on the show. One of them is who they claim to be, and the other is going to be a complete fraud. Now, we're each going to get to ask them a question, and the person who is legit must answer honestly while the imposter tries to answer as the best they can. Then we try to guess which one is legit and then which one is not. Okay, we have got Kelly here. Hello, Kelly.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you today?
Good. Thank you very much. Doing well. We've also got Bruce here to be on with us. Hello, Bruce.
How do you guys?
Doing well. Doing well. Thank you for joining us here today, Bruce.
Taking notes with everything you guys say, every breath.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to let you know, the legit person manages private investigators who do surveillance on people who claim they are injured, and they said never a dull moment.
Who claim they're injured. All right.
Yes. You know how people will do that, especially for insurance companies. They will have a workers' comp claim. They'll be making tons of money, and then they're out doing a jazzercise class.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. I had a friend who did this. Real shady.
Okay.
Said that they couldn't walk, said they couldn't work,
Uh-huh.
and then they got busted.
These are the kind of stories that we're going to be getting here, so we need to try to find the real person. So I'm going to start with Kelly and just ask you, Kelly, if this is the case, what is the craziest story you've ever heard of somebody that got busted?
Well, we bust about 80% of the people that we go out, and so there are a lot of crazy stories, but I was trying to think of what wouldn't expose anybody too much locally, and one comes to mind up in North Florida. A family man we were following, and what my job is we have to do a little investigating before we send the investigator out.
Okay.
You look online, you look on social media, and this guy had just had a nice family posting, 4th of July graduations, and we followed him for a couple of days. And while we don't do domestics necessarily, if you watch somebody long enough, you can catch them doing something skeevy. And we caught him behind an O'Reilly Auto Parts up in North Florida with a visitor, a paid visitor in the truck with him. He's opening back in the seat for a few minutes. And when they get out and he's zipping up his pants, he actually paid her in scratch-off lottery tickets.
Wow.
My investigator was right on it, rolled the tape, and while it necessarily doesn't show he's not injured, it would not look good in front of the jury.
Yeah, that would not. Yeah, you're paying off a hooker and scratch-off lottery tickets. That's-
I did not say hooker. I did not, to clarify, I did not say the word hooker, which is what she was.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, just trying to make it a little bit more obvious for some people. And it's at O'Reilly Auto Parts. That's a pretty awesome story.
It's layered.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was Walgreens where he purchased a Gatorade and the scratch-off lottery ticket. So I think it was
A Gatorade. Well, you know, you got to make sure you're getting those electrolytes, Virginia. If you're in a hot car
You got to replenish.
with a Florida hooker, yeah, exactly. Got to be very mindful of
These
fluids.
Florida hookers take a lot out of you.
Yeah, they do. Scratch off. Okay. All right. That's a solid story here. We're trying to find out who is the legit person that manages private investigators. I'll ask the same question of you, Bruce. What is the craziest story you have heard of maybe somebody that got busted?
Yeah, actually thinking about it, it's nothing as lurid, but there was a case recently that is revolving around COVID. I had one of my investigators, he was tracking a guy that called into his job. I think this was early 2021, right around the first kind of, flu, COVID shots and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was en route to get a COVID shot, but the only place in the state that got him, because, Florida wasn't doing many COVID shots at the time, it was kind of downplaying it.
Okay.
He had to go inland. Turns out this guy that was being followed by my PI goes and to another family that he is involved with. So he's leaving his wife, goes to another family, has an entire wife and kids,
Oh, wow.
and they go to Disney.
Double life?
Oh.
Oh, I love a guy with a
Okay.
double
Was-
life.
I'll tell you who doesn't, his wife.
Something else.
Wow. Okay, and he's taking family number 2 to Disney, and he got busted. Okay, Virginia, what is your question here to try to find out which one of these two is actually a legit private investigator manager?
Tell me financially, like how much money are these insurance companies usually like on the hook for? What's the dollar figure that we're talking about that people are getting or losing usually in your case?
We'll start with you on this one, Bruce. What's the money amounts that you typically manage? How much is on the line in these investigations?
It depends on the size of it because we have clients that are everything from mom and pop kind of employers to then brokerages. Sometimes my clients, my PIs deal with larger firms, but honestly, we're just kind of starting out at the moment. So it's more local. I'd say about these tend to be 5 to 10K per case, and it also depends on the length of the case. And kind of the charges at hand that we scale according to the potential loss for our brokers.
Okay, 5 to 10K is what Bruce is saying. What is your answer to that question, Kelly? What is the dollar amounts in these cases?
Well, again, Bruce is exactly right. It depends, but we do a lot of work for law firms that represent trucking companies and large, well-known companies that you see on your phone every day. So they can be in the millions. It depends a lot on what they're claiming. There's like, if you claim non-consortium, like you can't be intimately with your wife.
Okay,
it's
that's
hard
a big
to
word.
prove, it's hard to disprove, so people ask high dollar for that. The other thing people ask high dollar for is if they've got a bunch of kids in their car, which I find reprehensible because then you have kids going through unnecessary medical, et cetera. But usually we won't get hired unless somebody's claiming at least a minimum on your insurance, $100K. Because then people start looking twice. He only had a $200 in his pocket. He didn't even go to medical treatment for 6 months. So that's usually starts getting people's attention to investigate.
Now, I don't know yet, but you notice that right there, Kelly used a big word, and she used big dollars. Bruce is only at 5 to 10K. Bird, you got the final question here to try to figure out who is legit.
Not that I need it, because I know who our fake is.
Okay. Who is the imposter, and what kind of question do you want to try to trip him up with?
This one comes from the chat room. What are the consequences for these people getting busted?
Okay. Like the dude who was trying to pay off the hoe with the scratch-off tickets?
Yeah, what happens?
Yeah, okay. We'll start with you on this round, Kelly. What does happen when these guys get busted?
I am so happy you asked that because these lawsuits are so frivolous and so prevalent. There were no consequences in the past, but what's happening now are the firms that represent you or the guy who's being sued. They're actually going back and sanctioning like a big law firm for fraud. Then they have to pay our side's expenses. The person, of course, the litigant, the claimant, doesn't get paid anything, and they can have a big lien. They'll never pay it, but they could have a big lien in the court dockets because of these frivolous lawsuits.
Okay, frivolous lawsuits, looking at a lien. So
Fraud.
Now there's some real teeth to this. Bruce, how would you answer the same question?
Well, what I've dealt with personally and what my PIs have dealt with lately, more so on the side of termination and not so much liens, but it tends to be a very quick termination that I've seen.
Okay.
At the same time, those people that are themselves fired, I've seen a lot of this recently. They countersue and they say wrongful termination.
Okay. I think Bruce's phone went quiet.
Oh, they got him.
Okay. One of these two people legitimately manages private investigators. I have a clear-cut answer. I am going to go in on Kelly. It just sounded more legit, and she threw in a fancy word in there that sounded like it was that kind of jargon that you would have. Virginia, who is your guess for who is legit?
Yeah, I liked Kelly's story, too, about the guy that paid the hooker with lotto tickets. That, to me, is awesome for comedy points.
It's pretty good.
She's way too excited about her gig to be faking. She's the real one.
We're all in
We
on
think
Kelly.
it's Kelly.
Yeah.
We think.
Kelly, are you the legit manager of private investigators?
I am the legit manager, and I'm excited about you every single day, so that's real enthusiasm. And listen, before I let you go, I have it under as a podcast called Dating Detectives. You can tune into her and listen to this stuff all day long. They legitimately focus on busting cheaters.
Dating detective. Okay, very
Dating
cool.
detective.
All
I
right.
love it.
Well, thank you for jumping on with us today, Kelly. We appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Okay. That does sound like there'd be a million good stories there.
And thank you, too, to Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He brought it today.
Next week, who's the real serial killer? Oh, I'm kidding. That would be
Jaybird.
Sorry.
He's murder hopeful. He's murder hopeful.
You got to turn down your murder love.
Yeah.
Tuck your murder love in. It's showing.
It was a joke.
We are looking for people with interesting professions or interesting stories to come on for Who Is Legit. So,
But not murder.
No, that was a
not looking for
joke.
murderers necessarily, but
joke.
if this is you, send us an email, mail@kvjshow.com, mail@kvjshow.com.